Hello and welcome to a short video that recaps some of the key ideas from microeconomics, and those are supply and demand curves. So these are, especially in an intro level or undergraduate level economics class, we use graphic representations like supply and demand curves to better understand the relationship between the people who buy things, the people who sell things, and the role prices have in bringing people together and having people exchange these items. So let's dive into what demand curves look like. So on the y-axis, I'm going to label it P for price and Q for quantity. Now the demand curve slopes down. It's something called the law of demand. So the demand curve is going to look like this. What does that mean? What does that represent? Again, this is showing a relationship, and it's showing the idea that as the prices get higher, people tend to buy less. As prices go down, people tend to buy more. Why does a store ever put something on sale? They want more money, not less money. They put something on sale because they know more people will buy. People will buy higher quantities. Maybe you'll buy 3 boxes of cereal instead of 1, or maybe you'll buy cereal when you weren't planning to before, if that cereal is on sale, meaning the price goes down. And so we think the law of demand in general holds. Social science law is not the same as a natural science law. It's not something that is a feature of the universe described in an equation. No, a social science law is saying people generally behave this way. Now, one powerful thing about demand curves, a reason economists use this to estimate, try to figure out empirically the relationship between how much people want to buy and the price, we can actually tell something about how much people are willing to pay for a good. If this is, I've got Teddy next to me and he's got a toy. So this is the demand for dog toys. What we can think of is we've kind of sorted, and we put the people who are willing to pay a whole lot over here on the left side by the axis. Those are the people who are willing to pay the most. The people who are willing to pay less for a dog toy are over here further along. And in fact, there's some people who wouldn't buy a dog toy even if it was offered for free. You know, those people basically wouldn't be on this demand curve, or they'd be way over here at the 0 price level, right? But not adding any quantity. Now, if we look at the height of the demand curve at any given level, it's telling us the willingness to pay of the person or the units that they're looking to buy at that level. Again, after we've sorted them with the highest willingness to pay on the left, moving to the lower willingness to pay on the right, we can look at the height of the demand curve at any given level, and it tells us something. It tells us how much that person would be willing to pay. Now, why is this so powerful? I'm going to add a second curve here. I'm going to add a supply curve. Now, we tend to think of these as usually sloping up. Here, I'll draw a little Nike swoosh shape to mine for a reason I'll explain in just a minute. So a supply curve is generally sloping up, and you may recall from micro principles that there's a special feature of this spot where the two cross each other. That's where we find equilibrium. We label it P star and Q star. This is the price, the equilibrium price, at which the amount, the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied is exactly the same. If we look at any other price, we could go over to the curve and we'd see this many people would demand dog toys at that price, and there would be a whole bunch of people selling dog toys at that price because it's really relatively attractive product to sell at a higher price. And so if this is the price for dog toys in the market, we're not in equilibrium. Why? Because we have more people wanting to sell it than wanting to buy it. We have a surplus of goods. Stuff's going to be sitting on the shelves. And so what would we tend to see? We'd see stores not want to just have that inventory sitting on their shelves. They would run sales. They would lower the price. The price would go down. We would basically have market forces push us toward this equilibrium spot. Something similar would happen if we started with a price below equilibrium, you know, at a price that's, say, $1 per dog toy. They're only willing to sell this many, but people want to buy that many. There's a shortage of goods at that price. You can't keep them on the shelves if you're running a store. And so those products wouldn't go on sale. In fact, they would probably end up raising prices for those, and we would again have market forces kind of push us towards this equilibrium point. So what does this mean? This means that if we're in equilibrium, the price in the market is P star, and we're selling the quantity Q star, it means all the people to the left of that are the ones who are willing to pay that much or more for that dog toy, and they're buying it. The people who are to the right of it are the people who are not willing to pay that much. They're not willing to pay P star. The equilibrium price for dog toys is $3. They're only willing to pay $2.50 or $2 or only $1. So they're not buying it. They won't want to. It's not worth it to them. Now you may recall, because of this feature, we could say something about the people over here who are buying dog toys in this market. This person would be willing to pay $8 for a dog toy. The equilibrium price is only $3. They actually gain a lot by being able to buy that dog toy. They'd be willing to pay $8, but they only have to pay $3. So they get what we call a consumer surplus. And for that individual, it would be $5. Why? Because they're willing to pay $8, but they're able to buy it for only $3. So there's that $5 difference. They're glad to have that dog toy for sale in the store, to have it available to them at that price. And so we can actually see that graphically. We could also measure it empirically by doing what I just did, taking willingness to pay and subtracting what the price in the market is. But we can see it graphically with this consumer surplus. Now, turning to the producer side, why did I draw this little Nike swoop shape? The supply curve we think of as being traced out by the marginal cost curve for a firm. Now, we think that curve is generally kind of in this downward sloping at the beginning, and that's as firms get into economies of scale, efficient modes of production, able to fully utilize their technologies. But we know that eventually the supply curve slopes up. And so that's the most important thing, is that the supply curve ends up being an upward sloping curve, even if it's not in the beginning. And in fact, the part that traces out the supply curve does not include that downward sloping portion. So when it comes to a supply curve, we can just draw an upward sloping curve. And this is showing us what a firm is willing to make and sell a product for. This is showing us the cost to them, the marginal cost of making that additional product. And so we can actually see how much they gain. It's in this producer surplus area. If you'd be willing to sell a dog toy for $1, but you can sell it for $3, then you're really happy. It cost you $1 to make this additional dog toy, but you sell it for $3, it means you put $2 in your bank account, right? And so you definitely want to make and sell that unit if you're a firm, and in fact, you're going to keep doing so as long as your marginal cost is below the market price. And so that's kind of the nuts and bolts of supply and demand curves. Demand curve showing us the relationship between what consumers want to do and how much utility, how much willingness to pay they have for different products, measured in the height of the demand curve. And we have the height of the supply curve showing us the marginal cost of a firm, and so above that, but below the market price, showing us the producer surplus, what they gain by having access to being able to sell their products in these markets. So that was a 9-minute summary of some of the key ideas behind supply and demand. Thanks.